Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this week's webinar with Deepblocks. My name is Michael Cavone, your Chief Revenue Officer. I'll be guiding you through our webinar this week as we are going to be canvassing the Carolinas. We'll be showing you how we can do an instant market canvas of two key markets in the Carolinas, Charlotte, North Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina. We'll demonstrate how within, again, minutes that you can scan this market based on certain criteria and really find those opportunities based on your development criteria and identify the development potential that will help advance your business, give you that competitive advantage. And again, do it in such a expedited time frame. We'll also demonstrate selecting a parcel, going through that feasibility study as well, just to kind of give you a nice high-level view of how that tool works as well, so we can determine what parcel is a go and what parcel is, like we say, is a no. So go or no, and here at Deepblocks, we're just trying to turn months of work into minutes of work and really cut your costs, increase your time efficiency. But before we get into the details and start jumping in, I'm going to give a few more minutes, let some more people join us. Feel free to use the chat to ask me some questions. If there's any questions that you want to discuss that are specific to the webinar, or again, outside the webinar, if you want to reach out to me after the webinar, please feel free to reach me at michael@deepblocks.com. Again, it's michael@deepblocks.com. We can set up a one-on-one demo and go in depth and demonstrate how to use the software and optimize it for your particular use. The concept of Deepblocks, we're trying to standardize that process through all the cities we're in. And, as I'll get into in a few minutes, but we are in 100 cities, and the concept of Deepblocks is standardizing in making your process applicable to all these cities that we have zoning data, market intelligence, demographic data, and really just make it available for you to easily identify these opportunities, again, based on your development criteria. So I do, again, appreciate you taking the time to join us this afternoon. And just a couple more minutes, I'm going to actually share my screen. We're going to jump on and kind of go through the website, just like to always touch upon a few key resources that you have access to. Kind of the theme these last few weeks is, like, as I mentioned, we're trying to really explore other markets, explore some new cities that we've added, but the real key is the ability to canvas markets, like we like to say, instant market canvassing, how you can really scan an entire city relatively quickly, go from a macro level view, zoom in, get a little more micro level view, but find these off-market deals, if it's a single parcel, if it's an assemblage, whatever it may be, in order to accomplish your goals. And again, do it in an expedited time frame. And we want you to find those deals, source those deals. We like to say we're finding our partners and clients that we work with are sourcing deals 100 times faster than the way they used to do it and the way it was typically set up before Deepblocks came along. But with Deepblocks, we're just seeing such a great improvement in the amount of time you're saving and reducing those costs. Again, with the feasibility tool as well, you're allowed to go through various iterations and truly understand what the most optimal development play will be on that parcel and if it makes sense. So again, I'm going to share my screen and we will jump into our website just to see, again, some key resources. Here we are at the homepage. I always like to kind of go into and show you the cities. As I just mentioned a little bit before, we're in 100 cities where we have zoning data. So we're currently in 100 cities with zoning data. We continue to expand upon our reach. Currently, we are working on adding some key MSAs of certain markets. I know we're working on the Dallas MSA. We're working on Orlando and Tampa, just trying to fill out some of these important markets that we're seeing a lot of growth. So more is coming, and more cities are coming with zoning. I know we're updating routinely our zoning data. We're updating our existing parcel information. We have over 11 million parcels within our database, which we're updating that existing data. So, and we're trying to standardize that data all across every city. So you can, again, take your thesis of how you search, if it's based on gross billable, if it's based on FAR, if you want to use unit density, whatever it may be, we want you to be able to standardize that process and do it in any city that makes sense for your particular business. So, and again, at Deepblocks, we're converging different data sets. As I mentioned, zoning data is our key data layer, but we also bring in market intelligence. We have market rates, where we're taking an aggregate of listing data and applying our machine learning to bring a strong baseline of market data for residential rates, retail rates, office rates, industrial rates. It's a real good, as I mentioned, a strong baseline to give you a good idea of what you're seeing, and it's broken down by census tract. We have census data to show you median income, population, as well as median rents. So again, and then we also show demographic trends to understand the different trajectories we're seeing for certain key census data. We show opportunity zones and other different types of heat maps, in addition to kind of give you an idea of where we're seeing pockets of density and where we're seeing development growth. So a lot of cool overlays, a lot of great data sets that we bring here. It's a really strong real estate database that we continue to build and grow and utilize as we automate the site selection process. And like I always like to describe, our software is broken into two types of interfaces. The front end's that market scanner, site selection tool. Again, that's where we'll be focusing most of our attention today, to go through markets and enter in criteria to find those opportunities and find those parcels. And then upon selecting a parcel or doing an assemblage, you can go into our feasibility analysis tool and basically run various iterations, enter in setbacks, income assumptions, cost assumptions. Everything's automatically computed for you to see what it's a 1 year back of the envelope financial analysis, return on cost. Both interfaces have great resources. You can export to CSV all your listings that are matching your particular criteria that you enter for your site selection. So you have a great resource of all those listings, legal addresses, and about 15 columns of information. And on the back end, you can export the PDF, your particular project. You're trying to do the 3D model and massing to get that financial report. It's a nice little 4-pager. We're also working on exporting those assumptions out so you can enter them into your Excel spreadsheets on your back end. So we also have our webinar section where you post most of our webinars. If you ever need a webinar recording and it's not uploaded yet, feel free to reach out to me. I will send you the link to the webinars. We have our tutorials, which we continue to update, nice little 60-second clips. We're adding a more comprehensive one that's going to be a few minutes, just to kind of give you the key overview of some functionalities for our particular, for Deepblocks. Our pricing, as I always like to touch upon, we have 3 packages at the moment, $5,400 per city for our local. So it's just one city is $5,400. You can get a state license, which is every city within that state plus any city we're adding. That's $18,000. And then lastly, our national is $36,000 for all 100 cities. Great time to get in. You can get grandfathered in that price, even as our price will continue to go up as we add more cities and add more data, add more functionality. So again, great time to join Deepblocks, work together as we expand upon our software. So let's get into it. And like I said, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out and ask via the chat. And we're going to jump right into this. So here's my dashboard. Just a couple little key pointers I always like to bring up. It's a SaaS product, so we always recommend using Google Chrome. I like to keep I'm looking at a 24-inch monitor. The bigger your monitor, the more you can capture when we go through site selection, which I'll show you in a few seconds. But you can also, I like to bring my screen down to about an 80% instead of 100%. That allows me to capture even more on my screen to really, again, canvas that market, scan that market. The goal here is to go through these markets and really cover as much as you can and find that we find those opportunities. This allows you to find that needle in the haystack. That's what Deepblocks is here to do. We're trying to get you to find those off-market deals and stay ahead of your competition. So with that, let's jump in. We're going to start with Charleston, South Carolina. And here we go. All right, so I'm going to click search. And just to kind of give a little fresh look at what we're seeing right now, always keep in mind, it's a very intuitive, very interactive software. The interface is very simplistic and is very, I like to say, user-friendly in the sense that on the left side, we have what we call our inputs, your tool sets, your inputs in terms of your criteria for refining your results. On our right side, we're going to have our map layers, which are our overlays to show, again, different density, heat maps or our zoning maps. We have our opportunity zones. We also have our census data, our market rates. So just things you can apply to overlay, and we call our outputs, as well as our demographic trends. So the left side's your inputs, your right side's what we call your outputs. But it's kind of, before we kind of dive into canvassing this market, what I like to do is we're going to zoom out a bit And we're kind of going to look at, I want to apply some of the key layers or just get a good feel for this particular market. Again, keep in mind, like our goal here is to standardize the process of searching for opportunities throughout various cities, not just, again, you might be in one city and that works just as well because within a city, you can basically standardize that process and spread it across census tracts. Now, if you're working more in a regional or national or state level, state, regional, or national level, there's some macro level tools that will also help you to get a good idea and feel for these markets across the country and across those regions and across those states. So as we zoom out a bit, you'll notice that the parcels are going to disappear for a second, but we're going to kind of get a nice macro level view of this part of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm going to turn on the buildable area ratio first. What this will do is kind of give you, we like to say, give you an idea where the pockets of interest are, where we're seeing development potential. And, in some of the bigger cities we've done in the past, our heat map basically has an index of like hot red, where you'll see the hottest or the greatest popular pockets of density, where orange is kind of your next level down to the yellow. So here in a little bit of a smaller market, you'll notice that we have more of orange than we do red. But here's your pockets of density right here. We're seeing some development potential and great interest going on. Now, it does not mean the yellow is not a potential play. It's just kind of giving you a good indicator to understand the particular market of where we're seeing some activity. Now, we can also turn our unit density layer on this. Again, the way unit density layer is similar to the buildable area ratio, basically trying to show you where you can capitalize and maximize on these values. This is more for unit density in the sense that this is applying where each parcel is zoned for a certain amount of units, and it might be underutilized at the moment. So you kind of want to focus your attention there and see if there's some opportunities to capitalize on these areas where you can maybe find an older building that is again underutilizing its the zoning capabilities, and you can maybe it currently has 6 units, but it's zoned for 20 units along those lines. So the deep red kind of gives you an idea and gauge where we're seeing that interest and where we're seeing those pockets as well. So you'll see throughout Charleston. Now you kind of start to zoom in a bit. Now for canvas in the market, I'm going to kind of focus on mixed use play. We're going to look for multifamily and retail mixed use and canvas the market of Charleston. We might also try to touch on industrial, but I don't want to get, because I kind of want to demonstrate how we can standardize this canvassing process in 2 locations in the Carolinas. So I might just look at multifamily retail first and then go from there based on time. But I'm going to continue to zoom in a bit. And we're kind of going to look in this particular part of Charleston. Now, what I want to another layer I like to always turn on is we can look at our opportunity zones and get an idea where we see those zones, see maybe there's some types of tax incentives. Additionally, I like to go to my people layer, and this is where we're going to get some census data. So we're going to start enabling some of these layers. Again, median income is a very important layer for this particular play for multifamily and retail. Get an idea of what type of median income am I looking for. For my particular play, I'm looking for that right here, this 50,000 area. So basically we have 1, 2, 3, 4 solid census tracts based on my criteria. We even have 49,000 here. So we have a good 5, 6 areas that are kind of right in my wheelhouse of what I'm trying to accomplish in scanning this market. Now, again, you could zoom out and get an idea and scroll right through up and down this part of Charleston and get an idea of where you might have other areas of interest based on the median income. But I'm going to kind of start in that part of Charleston first, right here in this particular portion of it. Now we're going to continue to zoom in, and we're going to kind of wait till those parcels start to appear. Now, some other things we can throw on is like I mentioned, our residential rates. This will give you a good baseline of dollar per square foot for rates, residential rates. Again, this is something where we take an aggregate of data and then we apply our machine learning to bring a good, strong value that, again, we routinely do releases and validate our information and make sure that we're seeing accuracy in our numbers based on the current market. We could also turn on retail because I want to kind of do, again, mixed use of retail. We'll see our dollar per square foot for the retail rates. We could also throw in some local businesses just to get an idea of what we see in this particular area. We have also our traffic count to see the type of traffic flow throughout a particular area and getting a good idea of the volume. So, and keep in mind, anything that, again, in these map layers, we have a map legend that will tell you how this data is sourced and how it is represented. So again, for traffic count, you'll notice the different colors, and here's your volume of traffic that we're seeing. So just know that there is a key there for you to help guide you in understanding these layers. Now, we're going to continue to zoom in until our parcels now appear, which we see right there. All right, so now, just to give you a general idea of how many parcels we're looking at, I'm going to move over a little bit. I'm going to go back to that general tab. I want to turn on that unit density for 1 second and kind of just get a good feel for what unit density is available throughout this particular area. But right now we're currently looking at about, let's see, we have a good way of quickly identifying, seeing the number of parcels in your screen is simply just make this 0 to 1.5 million. It should capture pretty much and highlight. What you're doing is basically highlighting all the parcels in your viewport. So we're looking at about 3,000 parcels in this particular part of Charleston. And again, you'll see as I scan the market, and we kind of move the screen north, south, east, or west, it'll automatically update as we refine our results. So as I mentioned, my current guidelines are multifamily and retail. So and just keep in mind, when we extract zoning data from these municipalities, their wording for use allowed is a little bit different upon each city. So we're working on standardizing that additionally to try to see if we can make it a little easier to find. Like some cities, for instance, might use multifamily. Some cities might use multiple dwellings. Some might use residential over both of those. It just depends on the city. If you know your zoning districts, it's another way to identify certain types of parcels based on these zoning codes. So, but I'm going to stick with the uses allowed. And I just know for Charleston, if we're doing multifamily, they do have multifamily. It's called multifamily dwelling. So again, it's slightly worded a little differently than if you're in Miami versus New York City, whatever it may be. But here we'll see, we have 624 parcels matching that are zoned for multifamily. I also want to look for some retail, and we're going to look for retail. And you'll see right here, we're going to do retail stores not elsewhere classified. And we're still at 624. So, which pretty much means these parcels that are highlighted in green are zoned for both multifamily and retail. Now, we can focus in on this particular area, as I mentioned, which I kind of was honed in on because of median income. I'm going to turn that median income layer back on, but we can start to scan that market and start to move our screen and look for other opportunities. Now you'll see how the parcels that are matching are still highlighted underneath. We do have a question. Okay, so a quick question. I did this example in Orlando, however, could not move around the maps. How do you move up and down? So simply, you'll notice my mouse will go to, right now you'll see it's on an arrow. If you click, all you have to do is really click and just drag the screen around. So usually you'll get that hand will come up and it makes it a little bit easier to drag. But it's really just click the screen and just start pulling down or go right, left, east, whatever direction you're going into. Let me know let me know if that answers your question. But yeah, it can be a little tricky sometimes, because what happens sometimes you click into a parcel, it actually will highlight a parcel like that. However, if you just go like this, it'll continue to move your screen north, south, east, or west. Yeah, if you have any issues, let me know. We can always jump on a quick call too, just to go through it. But kind of it's actually asked a very good question, because that's kind of the whole point of canvassing these markets. You want to be able to move your screen and quickly capture, as you go throughout an area, all the different parcels that are matching your criteria. Now, again, all I have right now is this uses allowed multiple family dwelling. I'm going to add that retail component back in. Okay, so we got some. Now, another way of identifying more opportunities, let's start to minimize this a bit. Let's look for certain units allowed. So I'm going to look for, let's say, 50 to 100 units allowed. Maybe we'll do 100, 250 to 150. Let's see what we get. All right, so now we're down to 10. And that's the power of Deepblocks right there. We just went from a few thousand parcels, and I always bring this up each and every week, how we start out with thousand parcels, and then within minutes, here we are now with a handful that are matching my criteria of units allowed between 50 to 150 zone for multifamily and retail, so we could do that mixed use play. The key now here is to start. You can do one of two things. Now, for my own benefit, I can sit here and export this out to a CSV, save these listings. Now I'll have these 13 parcels matching based on my criteria. I can continue. I can then either jump into a particular parcel and go through the preliminary underwriting and work that process, or I can continue to scan the market and continue to look for other opportunities. Now, again, keep in mind, I did mention I was looking for a certain type of median income. So you can always, you can notice, like, you'll see these highlighted parcels, a little bit different shade. So we kind of know what's selected based on these median incomes. And I want to look in this 50,000 range. So we'll see some more opportunities right here. Now we have 30 parcels matching. So we can now export those 30 and kind of start building ourselves a little bit of a resource. But if we want to continue to minimize our results, we can, again, continue to add other options. So maybe, as I mentioned, I'm looking for, if we want another way of doing this, instead of having the median income layer on, we could just simply say I'm looking for parcels in an area between 40,000 and 55,000. And it's another way of identifying these parcels quickly. And we can also adjust, saying I'm looking for at least 100 units to 150, and continue to adjust. Now we have 13 parcels. So the point is, you continue to refine your search on how you feel it needs to fit. Maybe you're looking for certain lot sizes. Maybe it's 50,000 square feet to 100,000 square feet. So obviously that's not going to match for this particular play, but maybe you have to go a little bit higher. So again, you might adjust this a bit. Okay, so there we have a bigger lot at 300,000 to kind of accommodate the number of units that I'm looking for 100 to 150. Obviously, we need a little bigger plot, but here. So now this could be, now I'm down to 2 parcels matching. This could be a potential play. Certain cities, we have existing building data, so we can see that land's vacant or not. And if it does not have that existing building slider, this is something, again, we're also updating for all the cities, trying to get that information consistent throughout. And we're literally in the process of updating this. But another method of doing it is you can turn on the satellite layer and get a good idea of what is currently in that particular area. So that looks like it's got an existing building, but this one over here looks like it's a wooded lot. So this could be a good play. So you'll see, actually, when you click it, we do get existing building data. It actually is vacant. So this is a good example. We can kind of work off this for a second. And that's kind of the whole concept, is to really scan these markets, move the screen, and just continue to find these highlighted matches based on what I'm entering, and refine these results as best we can and find these opportunities. So now we'll start to just kind of go right through this. We selected that parcel, and you'll get some key information. Again, this is similar information you would see if you exported out that CSV file, but now it's right here embedded into the software. Units allowed, we do up to 108, building heights 55 feet, 50% lot coverage. You get your unit density of 1 unit for every 2,500 square feet. Your parking by use, your use is allowed. So you get your general breakdown as well as your specific breakdown. As I mentioned, we're trying to do a multifamily in a retail play. You'll notice underneath services, it'll have that multiple dwellings, which is down below. It's quite a long list here. And you'll see multifamily dwelling. So perfect. That's what we're trying to accomplish. And then you'll also see that retail component that I want to add to get that mixed use as well. So I believe that's in the wholesale trade right here. You get retail. So you'll see like food services, for instance, food stores. So again, different types of retail stores we could put at the bottom of this mixed use play for that multifamily on top. And this is a great example. Then we have our setbacks that are being pulled. So we could jump into that and go into a feasibility study. But as I mentioned, I kind of want to show the power of going through, as I mentioned, different parts of different cities. So here we found this opportunity for multifamily, again, roughly, kind of scanning through Charleston. I'm now going to just jump over to Charlotte, North Carolina. And we're going to go through and show you how we can, again, show the process of standardizing this search. And what you'll notice is, I'm going to turn this satellite layer off for 1 second. Now, again, we can go through the same steps. It's just if you want to get a good understanding of this market, we can zoom out. quite a bit. Let's turn some of these layers on, get a feel for what we're trying to kind of try to gauge that market, try to gauge this particular city. And, as I mentioned, so you're seeing here with that buildable area ratio, gives you a good idea of that pocket density, that deep orange. Just again, this is so to show you the index of what we're using for these heat maps. Here you'll see this two types of red is the hotter. So again, if you're in Miami or some of these bigger cities, you'll get more of that greater pockets of density. But for a little bit smaller city like Charlotte and Charleston, you'll be in this orange. So right here, we're seeing some pockets of density where we're seeing development activity. We could also turn on that unit density layer, which I mentioned is another good way of getting a good feel for, which is a little more applicable to the multifamily play, and getting a good understanding too, where we're seeing some opportunities. And this is a little more sporadic, a little spread out, but we have some red here, some of this orange here. So it just gives you some good indications of where we can focus our attention on. I might focus in here. But again, it goes one of two ways. This is more just to give you a good analytical macro view of the city. We can also turn on, as I mentioned, I'm looking for certain types of median incomes. I'm going to turn that layer back on, and we're going to zoom in. And you'll start to see the median incomes. All right. So again, we could probably look in this particular part of Charlotte, scan around a little bit. There might be some, let's see if there's any opportunities up north based on the median income. But again, that's kind of why it's one way of kind of using this slider as well. Instead of using the overlay, this is kind of, again, to get a good feel for what is the breakdown by census tract of these median incomes. But the slider is another way of searching by a certain income. So let's turn on our residential rates too, just to get a good feel for resi rates, dollar per square foot we're seeing. And just to kind of get an understanding of that market. Is obviously a more expensive area where you could be it's $4.05 per square foot. So just a good indicator, as well as retail rates. Let's see what we got going on for the retail rates. So that's all within line. So again, if we're going for a little higher class building, maybe a little more higher end stores, this could be a good area to look for particular multifamily retail mixed use. But I'm going more of that middle of the road median income in the 50,000, which is a good income level, and especially in cities like Charlotte, a lot of good opportunity right there. So now we're going to jump back to our search engine, and we're going to continue to scroll into those parcels appear. Now you'll see the standardization in 2 seconds as I kind of zoom in a little bit more. And here we go. Here our parcels will appear. Once the parcels appear, are scanned. Now see what happens now. My search criteria is already activated. Now, use allow, we have to reactivate just because, as I mentioned, each city has different wording for their uses allowed. I know for Charlotte, they don't, instead of, you'll notice they don't use multiple family or multifamily. They just use residential. So we'll select residential, and I believe they just have retail. Perfect. So now we have, you'll see, we have one parcel matching. Units allowed minimum 100 to and then a certain lot size. So it gives you, just by quickly having my information already activated, it quickly gives you that particular parcel. Now, this is kind of what I was mentioning before. This does have the existing building area slider, so we can look for existing buildings of certain square footage that maybe if it's a smaller square footage, that might indicate that it's not really maxing out the zoning capacity that is allowed. So we could look for either smaller existing building areas, or we can look for vacant land. We can put zeros in here and see what's vacant. Right now we have nothing matching, but we can start to move our screen to see if anything does pop up. I do have some big, let me drop these numbers down a little bit. We're gonna make this 20,000. Let's make this 30, just to kind of broaden our search a bit. So here we go. We have 2 parcels matching that are vacant land, zoned for residential and retail, lot size between 20,000 and 300,000, units allowed 30 to 150. And this could be a great assemblage place. So it's actually, we kind of could work off this for a second. Let's actually select these parcels and see. This is showing vacant as well as this. And just to give you an idea of what we could do with this, we could do like I mentioned, we could do an assemblage here. And we could go through preliminary underwriting. And you'll notice when you do an assemblage, it'll combine this information for you. We'll combine you'll see the FAR broken down for each 1.5, one's 1, but you get your total units now 166 units allowed for this particular assemblage, which could be a great opportunity. They do have different building heights for each parcel, so that could be a little bit tricky on how we set that up. You get your 22 units per acre. So again, this kind of gives you an idea. This is a simple way of, does this make sense? Is this feasible? Is this deserve our attention to kind of see if this works, or should we continue to scan that market? I will say that I'm actually going to jump over to one particular address that I found over in, let's see, we're going to zoom out for a second. We're going to continue to scan. See if there's other opportunities around. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this down a bit, because you could also look for smaller lot sizes, and then we can do assemblages to kind of meet our criteria. We can make these 10. And let's see if we can continue to find some opportunities here. Let me take the existing building off for 1 second. All right. There was, let's see. So this is kind of the goals, is look for that diamond in the rough and quickly identify some opportunities that make sense based on our credentials here. All right, so here we go. We're starting to get some more right here. Perfect. And now we got 43 parcels matching. Up now we're up to 96. So now we're kind of hitting right close to that midtown. We could turn that people layer on, kind of get an idea. Perfect, right in my wheelhouse. And that was the other reason too, is the median incomes where I was looking, where I had this slider on as well. So that also restricted my search a bit. Let me turn the existing building back on. Now we find some vacant parcels. And again, we can continue our ability to go through the process. I can select this parcel. And just quickly, I want to demonstrate the feasibility study that we can go through and look at the 3D model and massing. So I'm going to do that mixed use, multifamily, and retail, and kind of quickly at a high level kind of demonstrate what this is capable of doing. So we'll notice that because the FAR for this was 0.5, that's why it's all one story right there. But it can go up to 100 feet. So we can adjust this FAR. I'm going to recalculate this project. Let's make it let's go 4. All right, perfect. And now we have we can do 17 units allowed at 100 feet. So we have 1.5 parking. So you can start to enter in our assumptions, start to kind of play with this particular 3D massing and see what makes sense for our project. 17 units were allowed, as I mentioned. So that's 17 in. I'm going to reduce my retail a bit. I'll make it, let's go 6,000. We can put some setbacks in too. I'm just going to put some general setbacks in at the moment. And there you go. We start to kind of work that building a bit. And perfect. And you start to kind of play with it to get it within reason and what you're trying to play with. And as I mentioned, as you start to update this, the goal here is to optimize this particular parcel. And again, goal is to see, does this make sense? Is this a worthy candidate for your development site? And does it make sense to continue and put your resources there and try to do it again at a high level? We can adjust the unit mix of the breakdown of this feasibility study. We can go into breakdown amenities. We can adjust the multifamily income. Maybe we can get $2,000 a month for this particular play. Go into the cost side. Maybe update the cost a bit. Maybe we can do this for $170 per square foot. Again, work these numbers, work these assumptions. All these values are adjustable to see and say, all right, I'm not getting there. I'm not seeing the value in this particular parcel based on what is, based on the zoning capacity, based on the various assumptions we're entering. And you can say to yourself, this probably doesn't make sense. Let's go back to our search and continue and look for another particular parcel. But I mean, that is the concept. We want to get you to go through, find these sites, select these sites based on your criteria, do it in a very expedited process, but a very accurate, effective, in an effective manner. Locate individual parcels, assemblages. Keep in mind, you can do subdivisions of a large parcel. You can do a subdivision within an assemblage. There's a tremendous amount of flexibility with Deepblocks to not only find sites, but find multiple sites that can make your particular projects work, and then go in and again use this our Explorer interface, which we're looking at right now, work that 3D model massing, work those numbers, and adjust it to see if we can optimize it and again make sense of it. And then again mentioned, you'll get your breakdown of your here's your financial breakdown, here's all your assumptions, which again this will be available to be exported to a CSV file very soon, but at the moment we can create a PDF report, which is a great little 4-pager kind of presenting. You'll see nice little overview cover page. You can adjust the image here, change the logo, change the color palette of the report. Use the property info, zoning summary, and a stacking plan. You'll see all the demographic trends that we're seeing in this particular area, as well as that return analysis. So it's a very, again, it's a really one-stop solution. We're trying a very centralized software solution, converging zoning data, parcel level data, market data. I mean, we have all of our demographic trends right here that we can look at to get an idea of the particular growth. We can compare different census tracts. So for instance, we can, if we want to look at census tract 3 and I believe 26, we can just compare those two and say to ourselves, all right, which census tract is more advantageous? And you'll notice that looks like number 3 is possibly a better opportunity than number 26. I mean, look, that's a very strong growth in population. You can go through the same analysis with the employment population, median gross rent, and median household income, and give you a good analysis and understanding of these particular areas that maybe these parcels in this particular area make more sense. Maybe we got to continue to move through the city of Charlotte and find some more opportunities. Again, you got to keep in mind of the sliders you have on and see where there are opportunities. I tend to turn off the median income, and we'll see new results appear and start to display based on your search criteria. So just to recap, this week we did a little what we call, I like to say, canvassing the Carolinas, showing you Charleston, South Carolina, and Charlotte, North Carolina. Again, kind of standardizing the process, standardizing the search, and having your criteria in place and applying it to these different markets and finding these opportunities and scanning these cities as much from north to the south, to the east, to the west, and trying to cover the entire city and instantly find opportunities that are matching your criteria, export out those matches to a CSV file to create a nice little sourcing list and start to look into them. Obviously, then you can also select those parcels. If it's a one parcel, or do an assemblage, go into our feasibility tool and do some iteration and study the potential of those parcels. And before you know, you're going from A to Z and understanding and finding these opportunities. Again, saving yourself time, saving yourself those costs that you have to, sometimes going through those iterations cost $5,000 to $10,000, sometimes $15,000 each time to modify, or it could take time to modify, where you can just do it right here, all at your fingertips. So again, I do appreciate your time. I do thank you for joining us this afternoon. I look forward to seeing you again next week. Please feel free to reach out to me. Again, Michael@deepblocks.com. If you have any questions, if you would like to set up your own one-on-one demo, there's a certain city you want me to look at or certain projects you want me to look at, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Again, have a great afternoon, and I will see you next week. Take care.